Hello, and you're very, very welcome to episode 2 of season 2 of the League of Ireland podcast here on Finalwhistle.ie. I'm your host, Ciaran Callan, and I'm delighted that you're here with me for this podcast. Here's what we have coming up on the show. YoYo Madhy is going to be talking to us about his switch to the Northwest, where he is signed for Ollie Horgan's Harps. We'll also be speaking to Diarmuid Kearney, our correspondent from Finalwhistle.ie, where he will be previewing next week's fixtures, and he'll also be reviewing all of the action from last week. And later on in the programme, we will have Treaty United manager Tommy Barrett on to talk to us about his side's fortunes for the upcoming season. Coming up next is our first guest, and it's YoYo Madhy here on the podcast on Finalwhistle.ie. YoYo, you're very welcome to the programme.
Cheers, Karen. Thanks for having me.
First of all, you were probably all geared up for what was the first game of the season against Drogheda United, and then Storm Eunice or Storm whatever it was got in the way. From a mindset point of view, was it a bit of a setback that you got hit with the cancellation so late in the day that you were reared up for the first game of the season, and then for that kind of all to be taken away from you?
I'd say we were reared up for the game, to be fair, all week, and then Thursday night we knew there was a storm coming. So Thursday our mindset was the game's on, we're ready for a game tomorrow. And then Friday morning woke up, looked out the window, and there's about 10 centimeters of snow or something. So I think it was pretty obvious from the start of the day that the game was going to be off. But like it was a bit of a setback, seeing like as we've been preparing for the last 4 or 5 weeks for this first game of the season, for it to be called off, and then other teams playing, it gives them kind of a, I don't know if it's like a head start, but like they get 90 minutes under their belt in a Premier Division game, and we have to wait another week for a game on Friday and then a game on Monday as well. So look, you can't really predict the weather in Ireland, especially up here. So our heads are screwed on now for Friday, and we can't wait.
You made the switch to the Northwest after winning a First Division medal with Shelburne. What was it that Ollie Horgan said to you that enticed you to move up to Donegal?
Ollie, I spoke to Ollie before the start of last season as well, and I knew that he was interested in me, and I know how highly he thinks of me as a player, and that's something that obviously every player wants. They want a manager that rates them, and you know, when he picked up the phone and started speaking to me this year, he told me about his plans for the season, how he wants me playing, and the players that he has here as well. That all was part of the reason why I came up. And you know, so far working with him has been really good, and there's no one in the whole league that has a bad word to say about Ollie. And from working with him, I can see why, because he's a good guy and he looks after his players and he'll do anything for them, and that's someone that I want to play for.
You just kind of touched on a little bit there, but from speaking to people within the League of Ireland circles, one of the things that entices people to go and play for Ollie is the fact that he's apparently, now I haven't seen him do it, but apparently he's an exceptionally astute coach. So from working underneath him over the past couple of weeks, you know, since you started pre-season, what has his coaching philosophy been like, and how is it linked into your style of play?
He knows how to get it done. You know, if you look at the last few seasons, you know, Harps have had a really good record towards the end of the season as well. Even in the playoffs, and when they went down, they came straight back up. So he's the man that knows how to get results, and you know, being a striker, results for me is usually involves me scoring goals. So like, it kind of comes hand in hand.
Am I right in saying that YoYo is kind of an abbreviation or short for Yusuf? Is that the correct pronunciation of it? Yeah, because you have an Egyptian background. But speaking of there's quite a continental flair to Harps. There's a player from Spain. There's a player from Madagascar, which is Bastian Hiri, who's very well known. You've signed a Croatian player. It's starting to show that the attractiveness for players from a European background coming to the league. Obviously, they used to always see England as the only option, but now Ireland's becoming that. It's a nice thing to have for Harps especially, but also for the League of Ireland.
Yeah, you know, having that bit of like international aspect of players at the club is, I think it'll attract a lot of attention from the countries that the players are coming from as well. So, you know, the only thing that's a bit of an issue is probably the English speaking. That can be a bit of a problem, but you know, as the season goes on, you'll gel together, and you know, that communication will be fine between the players. But as you said, I think it is big for the league, you know, that it's not just English lads, not just Scottish lads. not just Irish lads, obviously. That like if you want the league to grow, players from other countries have to start coming.
You're just breaking up a little bit there, but we'll just keep going. Finn Harps is an intimidating place at the best of times. I know from being there as a as a supporter and as a journalist. Sorry, I got a bit of a technical difficulty there, YoYo. I don't know if you heard the question.
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay, I was just saying that Finn Harps, by all intents and purposes, is an intimidating place to go at the best of times. I know from as a journalist, but also as someone who's gone to support his club there. It must be enticing though that you're going to be on the right side of that very vocal support from the people of Donegal.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've had many battles with Finn Harps. When I played for UCD, I went up there, and it was always a close battle at the best of times. Seeing as the year that I won the first division with UCD, they were our main challengers, and then the year that I went down at UCD, they were the team that was just ahead of us. So every time I went there, it's been packed, and it's really intimidating, and it is a tough place to go, and they know how to get results there. So it'll be nice to be on the other side of that for once.
And finally, I know expectations are high, going into every League of Ireland season. But for you personally, what are your expectations as a player, if you've set any for the up and coming season for Finn Harps?
I think it's more of a collective goal. Everyone knows the goal for Finn Harps this year, and I think that we have a good squad of players, and I think we can exceed the expectations that the fans would have for us, and even the ones that we have for ourselves. Personally, I just want to get goals. I want to get playing. I want to play in the Premier Division, obviously, and I'll be playing with some really good players. So hopefully, we can all gel together and we can have some good performances.
Well, listen, YoYo, thanks very much for talking to us this evening, and we wish you the very, very best of luck this weekend.
Cheers, Ciaran. Thank you.
No problem. And you're very welcome back to the second segment of our League of Ireland podcast here this evening on Finalwhistle.ie. I'm delighted to be joined by Finalwhistle.ie correspondent Diarmuid, who is going to talk to us through the course of the last games that have happened last week in the League of Ireland. Plus, he's also going to preview next week's games. So we're just waiting for Diarmuid to arrive into the studio now. And we're just waiting for him. Sorry, just got a bit of a technical difficulty. But just to go through the results here that happened last week, starting with the fixtures from match day 1. Dundalk drew 2-2 with Derry City, while Shelbourne were defeated on their return to the Premier Division by St Patrick's Athletic 3-0. Finn Harps, as we were talking to YoYo Madhy, there was postponed their tie with Drogheda United, while Shamrock Rovers defeated promotion newcomers UCD. Sligo Rovers and Bohemians was also called off due to the storms, so that was an unfortunate thing that only 3 games went ahead in the Premier Division. When we look to the results in the First Division, there was only 3 games that also went ahead. Waterford signalled their intent of looking to return to the Premier Division with a 5-2 win over Athlone Town. Bray Wanderers defeated Cork City 6-0 in what was a very good game for Dylan McGlade. He grabbed a hat-trick, while Treaty United defeated Wexford 5-1, and we'll be speaking to Tommy Barrett about that in just a couple of moments. So we're just waiting for Diarmuid to come into the system here, and hopefully we'll have a chat with him, and we'll have a discussion. What we will be looking through is the main talking points of what happened in the Premier Division last week and in the First Division, and then we will be highlighting which games we believe are going to be the top games in coming up this week. Just to go through the fixtures really, really quickly, if I can. Starting with the Premier Division, and Bohemians will be taking on Dundalk, whereas Derry City will be taking on Shamrock Rovers. Drogheda United will be taking on Shelburne. St Patrick's Glen will be taking on Sligo, and UCD will be taking on Finn Harps, which YoYo Madhy will be hoping to feature. In relation to the First Division, Cove Ramblers will be taking on Wexford. Cork City will be taking on Galway United. Treaty United will be at home in their first league game of the season against Athlone Town, and Waterford will be taking Bray Wanderers. One of the teams that will be playing their first game for this season will be Galway United. John Coffey will be heading back to Turner's Cross, where he had much success as Cork City manager, and he will be returning. Hopefully he'll be get a bit of a good welcome from the hometown crowd in Cork City, a man who both won titles as a player and as a manager. So we'll be talking about the what we're going to do now is that we're going to be speaking to we're going to be speaking to Tommy Barrett now. Tommy Barrett will be discussing Treaty United, and he'll be discussing his form. So this is our interview with Tommy Barrett now. Well, last season he had to assemble a squad with 48 hours notice, and he then proceeded to take the First Division by storm by reaching the semi-finals of the promotion and relegation playoff. It's been in their maiden year. It's been a little bit of a calmer transition this season, but I'm delighted to be joined by Treaty United's Tommy Barrett. Tommy, it's great to have you back on the programme, and from myself, it's lovely to meet you.
Likewise, Ciaran. How are you?
I'm great, thank you very much. Tommy, first of all, a great win away to Wexford last week. The perfect start for your side.
Yeah, it was a really good result. Obviously, it sounds like it was a great performance as well at a 5-1. And it was a good attacking performance by us. And we counterattacked quite well, and we took our goals very well, and we played the conditions well, I thought. But we have a lot to work on. We conceded a lot of chances, and I think looking at the other results around the league as well, there was a lot of high-scoring games, and I think it was just one of those weekends where, it was kind of a bit freaky results. The weather conditions weren't great, and I think we adjusted them better, probably won the games well, So, well, that was certainly the case in our games. I can't speak for the other games, but that was certainly in our game. I felt that, we took our chances and adjusted the conditions a bit better. So we're not taking anything for granted, and looking forward to Athlone this Friday.
Okay, just to look back on last season, because it's the first time we're speaking to you, it was well documented on the 5th of February 2021 you were appointed manager. It was still 2 weeks away before you were formally appointed into the League of Ireland. I can only imagine how hectic of it was a time in those 2 weeks. Were you able to sign players? Were you not able to sign players? And then all of a sudden you got the get-go, and then within 48 hours you have to assemble a squad that has to compete in the First Division.
Yeah, it was crazy, Ciaran. It's well documented now. I would have been speaking to a few lads, obviously, before that, when I was assigned and when I was appointed, should I say, and I think it was the first week in February. But I would have been speaking to a couple of lads before that. There's a possibility we could get into the league, but we genuinely didn't know. We were kept in the dark until I think it was around the 20th of February. I think it was a Sunday, if I remember correctly, and we had to have the players signed. We got a 2 or 3 day extension, but we had to have the players signed, I think, by the Thursday. So we didn't train till the Tuesday, so it was essentially 2 to 3 days to get them signed. And I mean by training, I mean putting 40 lads out in an AstroTurf pitch in LIT, and which is now TUS in Limerick, and narrowing that down just overnight. So it was hard. It was hard on the boys. You didn't know, because you're looking at them, and it's not fair on them, because you're playing essentially 7-a-side matches and stuff just to get a look at them. And that was tough on those lads, But we had to mainly go with lads we knew or knew of quite well around the league. And it worked out well for a finish. We got a good group and good characters, and we retained a lot of those lads this year. So we'll be hoping we can be competitive in every game, and that's our aim.
I know I'm going to put my Dundalk hat on for a second here, but a sign that your players, really can rise to an occasion was that FAI Cup game in the Marketsfield last year. Only for a bit of a McElhenney moment, you could have pulled off what could have been regarded as one of the biggest shocks of the season.
I'd say it would have been the biggest shock of the season for sure. Yeah, look, you know, they had a lot of the possession, but didn't really hurt us. You know, my recollection of the game, we had probably a chance in just before that to win the game. You know, and it went to extra time. Even to bring them to extra time, you know, it was a fantastic achievement for us from where we were at. And even for a finish, we were down to 10 men. You know, I thought it was a harsh enough sending off, to be fair. You know, and we were chasing the game, and we got a few set piece chances. We went 3 at the back, and we were pushing, like, you know. So, yeah, we were unlucky, and that's a good thing about this group. You know, they're a good bunch of lads, and they'll keep on going to the end. You know, it's rare that we'll you know, we took a heavy defeat. We took 2 of them last year. One was Cabinteely, and the other one, who caught us in the last 10 minutes in the first playoff game and beat us 3-0. So, but in general, you know, we've been very competitive, and that's all you can ask for, particularly, you know, with the budget we have, you know, or the lack of a budget, and a fully amateur team. It's difficult to attract lads, but on the flip side, you know, you get lads that may want to prove other teams wrong, and you know, a bit of spite that way is no harm in a lad as well, you know. So that can be a good thing, and you know, we use it lads can use it as a springboard, and I have no problem with that. Like, we have lads now that went to Bows full time this year, and obviously Shelbourne, you know, in Ty Ryan and Sean McSweeney, and we have another lad gone to Cambodia, and Edward McCarthy's gone full time with Galway. So, you know, there's 4 lads that are playing full time football. I don't think they would have been playing full time football if they weren't with us last year. So, you know, that's great for them, and it you know, it's great for us as a club as well, as a regional club, to have more local players playing around the league like that, and professional football, because for many years this region has been neglected of full-time professional footballers. So, you know, that we have to be conscious that we've got to develop players first and foremost as well, you know.
There's 2 players that you have signed in the close season, Jack Brady and Denzel Fernandez. They both come from Shelbourne. While their chances were limited, they were part of a group that have won the first division and got promoted to the Premier. What do they bring to the side now with that experience that they are coming in that will help your team for this season?
Well, unfortunately, Denzel is going to be out for the majority of the season. He came in. We thought it was initially when I signed him, you know, he was diagnosed with it to be out for 6 weeks. There was a knee ligament damage, but you know, and I just presumed that's what it was, and we thought that's what it was. But when our own physio looked at it, it turned out that it was an ACL, so it was misdiagnosed. It wasn't caught, which can happen, you know. No one's at fault there. You know, Shelbourne have been very good. You know, they've paid for his surgery and looked after him. They've been very professional, you know, in their dealings with him. So, you know, I'd like to commend them on that. But you know, it's just a shame for a young lad that he's going to be out injured for a long time, and he would have been a huge asset to us in the first division, because, you know, he's very exciting footballer that, you know, will attract fans, and fans want to watch players like him. We have a few others like that, wide players, you know, Conor Melody, Joel Custrain, and they're exciting to watch, and very quick. Dean George, the same, you know, so, and Willie Armshaw. So we have 3 or 4. We've plenty of cover, but it would have been great to, you know, Denzel has won a first division title, and he is really exciting and really quick. But look, he's young yet, and hopefully he can come back from that. Jack Brady is, you know, Jack is around the league a long time. For Jack, it's around, you know, he's 25, but he's around a long time. He hasn't played in a couple of years, so he needs to concentrate on his own game first and foremost, and he will do that. But, you know, after that, then he certainly has the character to become a good leader, and he's a great character around the dressing room, and he certainly has good leadership qualities that will, you know, come to the fore as the season develops. But at the moment, I just want him concentrating on his own game, because he has only played probably 10 games in 2 seasons, you know. So it's important for him to get that sharpness back, and he's getting it week by week. You can see it. He was very good the other day and made some really good saves, you know. And so, look, he's just a very good character, and first and foremost, that's what we're looking for, is good characters around the place. And Denzel is as well, you know. And he's just unfortunate to be out, but we've got a lot of good characters, and we have a good mix. We've got a good mix of leaders and quiet lads, and we have a few lads that are lively, shall we say, you know. So they're characters in other ways, but that's good too. You need a few of those around,
yeah.
And it's important to have that. It's important to have that mix. So I'm delighted to have that, you know.
It's important to have not only, as you just mentioned there, you're good character, you're loud characters and you're quiet characters, but as long as they are part of the overall mix, which makes good harmony, it's always going to be good. Last season you defied the odds. You got into the semi-finals of the promotion relegation playoff. You were defeated by UCD. Would the club's aspirations be that? Not necessarily. I don't want to say it because the first division is extremely competitive this year. I don't want to put pressure on you, but another run like that would obviously be an objective of your side this year.
Look, you always want to win as many games as you want, Ciaran. I don't think it's the club's. The club's ambition is to, develop first and foremost off the pitch. Anywhere above ninth. As long as we're competitive, the board have said that, they're happy to where we finish. Like we made a profit last year in our first year, and a lot of that got to do with how well the first team lads performed, and that, I'm not talking out of shop here, but a lot of that a small profit. It wasn't anything major, but it was at the same time it was a nice sum of money that will go towards developing our own facilities, and the chairman has come out publicly and spoken about that. So again, that's where we're at. We're about developing our own facilities and putting money into our underage and in our academy and developing players, and so we're certainly a bit off. It's a not-profit organization. We don't have huge benefactors. We have some very good sponsors, but we don't have like the other clubs, multi-millionaire backers or anything like that, like a lot of the other clubs. So we have to build and grow our fan base and maybe look like a model off of in this country would probably be someone like Sligo, who have a fantastic community ethos, and their fans put a lot of money into put the shoulder to the wheel and put a lot of money into the club. And last year our membership was our highest income generator actually. So for a club in its first season, that was fantastic, and we'll hope to get pretty similar this year.
Listen, Tommy, hopefully come the end of the season we'll have a chat with you again. Hopefully that there will be a storm of great Limerick sporting occasions once again in the city. But I want to thank you for your time, and we will speak to you hopefully very soon later on this season.
Thanks, Ciaran. Take care.
No problem. My pleasure. And that was Tommy Barrett, the Treaty United manager. We wish him the very, very best of luck for the course of the season. Our next segment here on the podcast is that we're going to talk to Finalwhistle.ie correspondent Diarmuid Kearney, and he's going to give us a review of the last week's fixtures and a preview of this week. So Diarmuid, great to have you back, and you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Ciaran. Thanks for having me on again this week.
Not at all. First of all, if I can just, before we get into the nitty gritty, we launched the Around the Grounds last week. You were the host of that. You joined me in Oriel Park. How did you feel that went for a League of Ireland, segment? It's something new and novel.
Yeah, it's something new. It's a great experience to have launched something new into the League of Ireland sphere, let's call it. Having a new type of media form out there for promoting it. Obviously you were in Oriel during the standard reports and updates for the website and everything like that, and then of course you spoke to me at full time to give us the rundown. I thought it was great that we talked to all the reporters we had on the night, just to give the full-time report as the Final Whistle blew from all the different grounds. It was great just to have that and to talk to all the reporters, just to get that little bit of insight that you mightn't see yourself watching it, just to have, if people weren't able to watch any of the streams, that, it was there and available to them.
Let's get to last week's action, starting with Shamrock Rovers' comprehensive win over newly promoted UCD. Is it as you were for Shamrock Rovers? Is it going to be just a case that they are going to, I wouldn't say steamroll the league, but are they going to be the title contenders in waiting?
Yeah, I believe they were. Like, the game itself, when I was talking to you last week, I believe I did mention that it looked like it was going to be a routine win for Shamrock Rovers, and it was, in fairness. UCD, to their credit, it could have been a worse scoreline, to be honest, but Shamrock Rovers did look dominant. They looked like the team they were last year. Jack Byrne, of course, did get his first start since he rejoined them this season, and he looked impressive. Graham Burke getting a goal off the bench as well. And they do have other players in their ranks that have performed well, going back to that back five again that they worked so well with last year. I think that it's going to be routine again for Shamrock Rovers, to be honest. Based on what we've seen last week, I think that they will take that same ethos into the majority of the games this season, to be honest.
Derry City and Dundalk, as we spoke very in much detail last week, and at the ground in Oriel Park, it was a humdinger. I predicted before I went in, I said, I think this is going to be a draw. I wasn't sure. And the thing is, it could have gone either way. When looking back on the highlights, Dundalk actually looked the more dominant in possession, and in terms of chances, Sam Bone was trying to have his own goal of the year competition on the first game of the season. But in terms of, it gave an insight, as I wrote in my match report, of how both teams are going to fare this season. Dundalk aren't that far off it, but Derry City will have a lot to think about.
Yeah, I think both teams look fairly comfortable this season, to be honest. Both of them look like they're not going to struggle. When I watched it back afterwards, and I kind of agree with you there, to be honest, that it looked a draw. Like, a draw was a fair result. Yeah. Now, either team could have snatched it, to be honest, but look, I think a point each is definitely fair, rather than one team going away with 3 points and one of the other teams not getting anything, because they both deserve something on the night, to be honest. I suppose for the season going forward, it's interesting going to be where will they both finish, to be honest. I can't call from last week's game which team deserves to finish above the other. To be honest, it looked very competitive. Two sides who could definitely challenge for European football for next year, to be honest. Definitely teams that will make the top four, to be honest. Now, the home fans seem to got behind Stevie O'Donnell on his first game the last day. And that's great to see, especially with everything that's gone on with Dundalk, that they have a manager in the dugout that the home support have got behind. And hopefully, the ex-player can deliver.
Well, the other thing that I've spoken to kind of a couple of people about this as well during the course of the week is that the players were really trying, and they were really, really pushing, and they were closing Derry down at every opportunity, and they were really wanting the ball and pushing. And I think that's the one thing you will find from Dundalk supporters, and I think from any League of Ireland kind of supporter. We can talk about this really across the board for any team. If the players are trying, they're going to be backed. It's the case of when the players don't try is that when trouble starts.
That's it. We've seen it with a lot of teams in the past in a variety of different sports. If it's, if the players aren't putting in the work on the field, it's not going to warrant the results. And, I don't know if that's what happened with Dundalk from their fall from grace, being one of the giants and powerhouses of Irish soccer, to struggling last year in the league, and the same as what happened with Cork City now playing their football in the first division. I don't know whether it's that, there can be a wide variety of different things. It can be, management, it can be the ownership of the club, it can be recruitment, it can be a load of different things. But I do believe that both Dundalk and Derry have invested well. I mentioned it, of course, last week as well, with the likes of the McElhaney boys going to Derry. That's a massive recruitment for them. And, if teams have invested well, it's just, did you invest correctly? And over the next few weeks is going to be where it shows. Look, Dundalk and Derry both got a point in the first night. Recruitment has gone well for them by the looks of it. If both of them can get a point off the other, then I think they'll be fairly comfortable for the rest of the season, to be honest.
Two managers that had their first games with their new clubs last week met out in Talca Park. You had Tim Clancy with St. Patrick's Athletic, and you had Damien Duff at Shelbourne. Now, Damien Duff has come out and said that he's extremely proud of his side. Mm-hmm. He was very happy with their performance, but they were beaten, Dara Burns with an absolute thunder rocket of an opening goal. And St. Pat's, in terms of things, I think they're the side that they pushed Shamrock Rovers very close in the President's Cup. They look a very high pressing side. They look like they're going to push for second again, I think.
Yeah, that goal by Dara was absolutely superb. He was an absolute joy to watch the last night for St. Pat's. He was just he looked a player that has been in the league for years, but at such a young age, he showed his class already. Definitely one to watch this season already, even on the first night. But I do agree with what Damien did say about, like, they should be impressed with their performance and they should be proud of it. They looked a great team. Like, I'm surprised they actually didn't get a goal. They looked dangerous on the threat. The second half was a different showing. They looked a bit kind of lackluster in the first half. I think they were just trying to find their feet for the opening 45 minutes. First time getting a run in the Premier Division as a new team, and then you come out in the second half, you're a completely different unit. Whatever he said to them at half time definitely looked to have shown. Now, the scoreboard obviously doesn't reflect that, losing 3-0 on your first night, but to be honest, if you look beyond it and you look at their performance, you watch it back, now that first goal, I don't think most keepers in the league would stop something like that. That was just, that was sheer class on the first night. Then the other two goals, they were really well worked efforts, to be honest. I don't think Damien Duff is going to have much bad things to say. He can go back now, he can watch the game back, see where they went wrong, look ahead to their next opponents and see, look, this is what we're going to do in the next night, kind of right the wrongs of it. But I don't think after the first night, Shelburne are a team that should be written off already. They have impressed, and I do believe that they can definitely challenge for mid-table, to be honest, based on what I've seen over the last season, and definitely from their performance last night against St. Pat's.
Just before we move on to the first division, I know that Damien Duff has said that he's kind of sick of the attention a little bit. I think there's been an awful lot of media kind of coverage towards him. Do you think, not saying that it's an unwarranted distraction, but do you think that will all die down and he'll just be able to get on with the job without the consistent media kind of glare on him over the next couple of games?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, I suppose Damien Duff is so well known to people across the country. He, when a player who's donned the green jersey decides to go into management, especially in the League of Ireland, he's going to get a lot of media attention. He did as well when he joined Shamrock Rovers as well. There's so much media buzz about him being there. Yeah. It is great to see, though, that there is a lot of media buzz coming into the league again. Obviously, Damien wants it to be around the club and around different things, not just himself. He just wants to get on with the job at hand, which is obviously be the manager and work everything with that. But I suppose it is a good thing for the league, but it is a bad thing for him. I suppose he doesn't want to have a burden with the media. He doesn't want to fall out with any of the media outlets as well. Obviously, when someone like Damien Duff is there, he does grab headlines and everything like that. But I suppose you want to focus on the positive of the leagues. Him managing a team now in the league is obviously great for it. And I think that he should just, I suppose, back the media and just, promote the league as best as he can to try and get a lot more people actively involved in watching the sport on a Friday night or a Saturday, whenever the games are on, and get people who mightn't have supported League of Ireland teams before but live fairly close to our grounds to want to actually go down and watch their local team from now on. Moving on to the first division, 19 goals. It was a heck of an opening night. Waterford sent their signal of intent, a 5-2 win over Athlone in Lissywullen. Ian Morris looks like he could be setting the benchmark early. Yeah, they looked like an Ian Morris team, to be honest. They looked like a team that are already just waiting to lift the first division title even before they even got started. They looked a real threat, and to be honest, the 5-2 scoreline, it could have easily been more. They looked sensational. Phoenix Patterson as well. He was a great addition to their team last year. When they went down, I wasn't sure if they were going to be in a situation to keep him on, if a lot of players were going to go out the exit door once they dropped down. But now that he's back, he showed his class already and his quality on the first night, and to have someone like him, spearheading a team going into a title charge for the first division, an opening 5-2 win is definitely enough to say, here we're going to challenge for the title. Now, they weren't the only team to score 5 goals in the night, but at the same time, they've definitely said, just because we got relegated last year doesn't mean we're not going to be challenging for anything this year. I know there's been an awful lot of stories about Cork City in the news this week, but on the pitch, a big win over Bray Wanderers and the Bray Wanderers Cabinteely combination. Dylan McGlade getting a hat-trick. They're another side that
has Colin Heaney finally got this side clicking, and could they mount a title charge to take on Waterford?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Dylan McGlade, the hat-trick that he scored was absolutely fantastic. And if anyone hasn't seen it, I highly recommend going onto the Cork City Twitter and checking out the goal that he scored to complete the hat-trick. Absolutely fantastic, out of this world finish from him. Now, that game was marred by a few different crowd troubles, to be honest. There was a lot of things going on off the pitch that weren't going on the pitch at times. And look, we don't want to see that in the sport. We want to kind of, watch them running up and down the pitch for 90 minutes, support your team, but not, throw projectiles onto the pitch. Now, I know Dylan McGlade is obviously a former Bray Wanderers player, and him scoring a hat-trick and kissing the crest of Cork City at your home ground isn't something that you want to see, but I don't think he deserved anything being thrown at him, whether it was a flare or anything like that. We saw it, of course, last year with Waterford and Shamrock Rovers, but, moving
and
on.
happened in Oriel Park as well. There was monopoly money thrown at a player, and then the pig's head was another object. So, you can't control those situations, but at the same time, while I understand that pyros are part of the League of Ireland atmosphere, they unfortunately, has been said in another podcast. It was on the press box, which is Dundalk FC Media one. They said one of their guests said the majority of people that have these flares are not, they're not the ones that you really want to have them in their hands, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose it's across the league. You see it a lot. You see, especially when it was a Bohemians last year against Shamrock Rovers, where I think for the opening few minutes watching the game, you could only see smoke coming from the main stand. Now, look, people can, you can go to the game, you can, cheer on your team. If you want to have a flare, do it safely, but, do not throw it onto the field. Do not use it as a weapon to attack a player on the field. Like, we don't want that. You want the league for, its purposes. It's to promote domestic football in the country. It's not, you don't want to attack any player. You see it as well in England and stuff like that, where people have had coins, bottles, everything thrown at them. I don't think we want to see that in the league going forward. And it wasn't a great thing to see on the opening night, where it was the 7:45 kickoff, but I don't think it finished until well after it was. I think they could have been about half an hour into their journey by the time the game had finally finished, to be honest.
Moving on, Wexford had a very difficult evening at home. They lost 5-1 to Treaty. On the programme, we spoke to Tommy Barrett. He spoke comprehensive about his side's ambitions this season. They made the semi-finals of the promotion relegation playoff. They'd be hoping to make one step further this year and maybe make that final.
Yeah, for sure. I know I was listening to Tommy there, and he's a true League of Ireland manager. Like, he's someone he's diehard Limerick as well. Like, he wants to bring in the young lads. We saw him doing it at Limerick as well before they fell apart and departed us, and then Treaty United took their spot as the main team coming out of Limerick now. And for a manager to build a team within 3 days, take them to a playoff semi-final on their first year, like, he deserves a lot of credit for it. And I don't blame him for having that, the enthusiasm to think that we can do it. It's great to see him, because he is a manager that's definitely passionate about it. He wants to get behind the players. He definitely believes that squad has got the potential. You said the 5-1 win, they looked fairly comprehensive. They looked like a team that have been well drilled in how to play football, how to carry on themselves in the field. They've recruited well again. I cannot see them not making the playoffs. It's going to be interesting. Will the top four be Waterford, Cork, Treaty, and then Galway? Will there be 3 Munster teams challenging for one of the playoff spots? Who out of those 4 can just go straight up and not have to go down the playoff route? But look, we will have to see. But definitely Treaty are a team that have impressed. They impressed last year, and they are definitely impressing already this season.
Speaking of Galway, they're entering the game, so to speak, this week. We've just mentioned it there. You've got Longford as well, who have to play their first game this week. Their match was called off last week. I said it last week, and I'm going to repeat myself again. this has to be the most competitive first division season, I think, on paper for a long, long time. And I think that we talked about surprise packages and one thing. It's I don't think it's even about surprise packages now at this stage. I think it's who's going to be top and who's going to actually. I think it's going to be scrap on scrap before the come season end to see who's going to make the summit.
Yeah, it's mad to say that, you know, we got 19 goals in the first night, and even with all the games in the Premier Division, you'd be thinking, oh, we might get something out of this. But the first division impressed me more last week, to be honest. It was a phenomenal thing to watch. You know, those three teams looking very impressive already. Of course, Galway will want to kind of get their season off running now. It'll be very interesting to see if they can do something similar this week. Because if they don't kickstart with a win, you know, you've got three teams who've already put 5 past their opponents, who are looking strong already and can build on that, whereas Galway have, you know, not kicked off yet. And John Caulfield is another manager he's a diehard manager for the league. He knows this league inside and out. He knows what he wants from his players. I think he was disappointed last year that they didn't make a run of it and get into them, but, you know, to get into that position to play Waterford in the relegation playoff or even go up as league winners last year. He was very disappointed by that. So I think he'll want to try and get there again this year. But I think this year is a lot more competitive than it was last year. Based on what we've seen from the first weekend of games, the three teams have all invested well. We just need to see now, have Galway done the same, and can they, you know, bring everything out into the field on Friday night?
We'll start looking at the fixtures for this week. We kick off again on Friday. Bohemians are at home to Dundalk. Derry City are playing Shamrock Rovers. I believe that game's live on television. Drogheda United will kick off their season. They got their game against Harps cancelled last week. They're at home to Shelburne. St Patrick's Athletic are entertaining Sligo Rovers, who once again didn't have a game last week. And UCD play Finn Harps. Game of the week has to be in the Brandywell.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting tie to see what's going to happen from that game. You know, Derry, as you mentioned, you watched them last week. They were impressive. They were in hard luck, I suppose, not to come home with the 3 points. To be honest, they did look impressive. Can they take it to the Brandywell? You know, you're at home soil against the champions. This is the game that you need to show what you're made of. You know, getting 3 points against most teams in the division is all well and good, but you need to beat the yardstick that is Shamrock Rovers. You know, has their recruitment been enough? Can they stop that dynamic, you know, Shamrock Rovers team? You know, if they have the likes of Graham Burke and Jack Byrne leading an attack, it's going to be a hard task for the majority of people in the league to stop that duo. It's going to be interesting to see how they can finish it on the day, to be honest.
And the other thing is that as of yet, they don't even have their strongest 11. Michael Duffy at this moment in time, we were just told that he's injured. We don't know length of time. So for at this moment in time, they don't have their strongest 11. McElhenney came off the bench. I think he's still recovering from the injury that he suffered against Derry for Dundalk against Derry last season. So it's going to take a while for that side maybe to warm up a little bit. But getting a result against Shamrock Rovers would be important. St Patrick's Athletic are at home to Sligo Rovers. Sligo Rovers have had to wait a week. Their game against Bohemians was called off last week. Do you think that they'll kind of capture them on the hop a little bit and St Patrick get another win under the belt?
I think they will. I think St Pat's looked too impressive last weekend to cough up the result again this weekend. Now, we haven't seen Sligo yet to see what they're made of, whether they're going to be a team that can challenge this year or whether they might struggle. It's going to be an interesting one to see. But, you know, a team, like I said, for the first division, a team that has been out there and has got 90 minutes under their belts, looked very strong and impressive, especially away from home. You know, my money is on St. Pat's to take the 3 points, unfortunately, for any Sligo fans who are watching.
Can UCD take anything from their home tie against Finn Harps? Andy Myler, manager of UCD, he spoke very kind of highly of his side. UCD they've kind of switched their model from recruiting one or two players. They've gone a completely student model. They play great football. That's what they're so-called, really, the academy of Irish football, with the manner of the amount of players that they put through the system. Do you think that Finn Harps, with the blend of players that they brought in, will they be just too strong for them?
I think they will, just because of the fact that Finn Harps have been the team that have just hung on there over the last number of years, but they know how to fight and how to grind results, especially away from home. They looked very impressive last year. I think they had a better away record than their home record. They were a superb team. Like, most teams did struggle to contain them at the best of times when they faced them. And, look, to credit UCD, they did look impressive last week against Shamrock Rovers. You are going up against the champions. They did lose 3-0, but they did impress. Now, they didn't really create many chances in front of goal. It's going to be interesting to see, can they, put the work up front rather than in defence, going up against the likes of a defensive orientated team like Harps, who can just put men back there and make you struggle to try and get the ball in the back of the net. It's going to be an interesting one to see. I can see it being a draw, to be honest. I can see it, just being one of those, maybe a 1-1 draw, late penalty from someone, when Finn Harps are missing someone like Tunde up top. It's going to be interesting to see, can they get a goal scorer like him in the fray again. Hopefully they have someone, and Ollie can bring them on and make use of them this year.
Drogheda didn't get to play against Finn Harps last week. They welcomed Shelburne. We spoke to Dane Massey last week. He said that Kevin Doherty's the kind of manager that you want to play under, with his enthusiasm. Home crowd, Drogheda United. I don't know if you've ever been to United Park. The fans are right on top of you. It's a really it's a real old school type of ground. The pitch is really tight as well. That might not suit the likes of Shells, who do like to play a wide, expansive game of football. It ties it up. It's going to be a good game, I think.
It is. I actually haven't been to United Park, but I've watched a lot of their games, especially last year. It is one of those, traditional old school grounds. The fans are right on top of you. It's one of the tight pitches, similar to Finn Harps up at Finn Park. It's one of those, like, with the wind conditions last week, it could have been a right interesting one to go to be honest. But Drogheda are a team that you can, they can be sensational one week and they might struggle another week. It'll be interesting to see how they can cope. Obviously, of course, they didn't get their maiden run last week. Be interesting to see if they have taken the week off to just focus on their opponents this weekend and be able to, analyse the game and make what they can out of it and try and come home with 3 points.
Last game is Bohemians versus Dundalk. Bohemians have lost players. They've lost some big names and big characters. So that once again, Keith Long has delved into the transfer market. I'm led to believe that there is a shed somewhere in Dalymount Park. I don't know exactly where it is, and there's scouting reports all over it. Himself and Trevor Crowley have it. It's like their inner sanctum. He's recruited really, really well once again, just like Stevie O'Donnell has, with loan signings and with permanent signings. This game sets it up, I think, a little bit like the game last week. It just tees it up to be a humdinger. Bohemians and Dundalk have just had a real gung-ho battle against each other over the past couple of years, and once again, I think it's going to be a really exciting tie.
Yeah, I suppose Bohemians were hard done by with the amount of players that they've lost. They have lost some phenomenal talents in that team, and I suppose they have been a team that have, they've been through a lot of things in the league over the last number of years. They are a team that are, well versed in playing Irish football and looking strong, similar to Dundalk. Dundalk recruited well, lost some big players, managed to hold on. I believe Bohemians as well. Keith Long is a fantastic manager. I think he knows how to get the best out of players. They have some unbelievable young lads coming up through the ranks as well. I believe they can definitely utilise those. They still have great players. Obviously, they've lost Georgie Kelly, who was a standout player last year. To lose someone like him is, it's heartbreaking for Bohs fans to see him not be at Dalymount this year. But, hopefully they have another man who can step up to his calibre and lead the line again for them.
Going to the first division, Cove Ramblers are at home to Wexford, Cork City, and Galway United, Treaty United, and Athlone Town, and then followed by Waterford and Bray Wanderers. Game of the week, it has to be John Caulfield going back to Turner's Cross with his Galway United side.
Yeah, you know, their first run out on first division football, and it's against the team who looked to stand out last week. To be honest, of the three guys that we mentioned earlier who got the 5 goal results, they looked the team that were strongest. I mean, to score the amount of goals that they did in a very short period of time, you know, most teams are going to struggle against that. I'm sure now John, who's well versed in Cork City, has definitely studied Colin Healy's tactics. He definitely knows Colin inside and out as a manager, and I believe he's going to get you know, a great reception from both the home and away supporters. Depends on what way the full-time whistle goes, but how it'll finish. But I think John Caulfield is definitely someone who will definitely want to take 3 points away from his old team, to be honest.
What if the first home game, they're going up against Bray Wanderers. Once again, it's a what if it's not the easiest place to go to the best of times, but coming off a 6-0 defeat, you know, they don't want a situation where they're going to be a goal difference parity very early on in the season.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose, like, if it was the first week, I'd said, you know, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what way Waterford play. But if they play like they did on Friday night last week, I don't think Bray are going to be able to compete with them. They look too strong. They looked just a sensational outfit. They did look like a Premier Division team, to be honest. They looked like they did a couple of years back, where they were, you know, they were up there challenging for European places. They looked back to their main days. The RSC has always been a tough place to go, but for Bray, you've just lost 6-0 on your opening night. Can you perform against a team that could easily put 6 or 7 past you if you don't perform to your best? It's going to be interesting to see what way Bray go into the game. Have they looked back at where everything went wrong last week? But definitely Ian Morris will say, you know, more of the same from last week. If you can do what you did last week, then we're shoo-ins for promotion this year, to be honest.
Trini and I have their first home game. They're at home to Athlone, who lost 5-2. Michal Schnegerman's going to have another busy day between the sticks, I'd imagine. But a first home game in Limerick, you know, after the great season that they've had, it's about momentum now for Treaty.
It is. You know, the Markets Field was always a tough place to go for most League of Ireland teams. The Limerick support has always been rapturous. They've always got behind their team, especially now that, you know, Treaty United have formed. They're a fan team. They're a community team. They're promoting the sport in Limerick, and everyone has gotten behind them. And you saw it last year. You know, they were a brand new team to the division, but their fans got behind them. They willed them all the way until the semi-finals of the playoffs, and they looked a fantastic team. And you know, Athlone, they did struggle last weekend. They didn't look up to their best. You know, they have been the team that have kind of, over the last few years, it's been the same 4 clubs, to be honest, that have been down toward the bottom end of the first division. And I think Athlone are going to be down there again this year unless they can claim a massive scalp on Friday night against Treaty. But I think Tommy Barrett has got his squad, he's got his tactics right, and I think they're going to be a comprehensive unit this year, to be honest.
Cove and Wexford, this has the potential of being the game of the week. You just don't know. It's unpredictable. You just don't know what way it's going to pan out.
You don't know with Cove and Wexford. Cove and Wexford have been 2 teams that can be, you know, joining the teams in the bottom half of the table, or Cove can be challenging, or Wexford can be thereabouts. It's interesting. This could be a 0-0 draw. It could be 4-3, 4-4. It could be anything result, to be honest. Wexford were below par last week. I think they know that themselves. They need to turn everything around. Cove then, you know, can they come back and can they challenge Cork City to be the undisputed Cork team? Can they, you know, they'll say they're the county team and Cork are the city team, or right. You know, it all depends on what way you'll see it down below there. But it'd be interesting to see if Cove can develop. They've got a good number of young lads in that team. Wexford, of course, the same. But, you know, from what I seen last week, it could be a comprehensive result for Cove, or it could be a very, very tight, high-scoring draw, to be honest. Depends on which team wants it more. I think Wexford definitely will because of what happened last week, but I think Hove do want to start their season on a high.
Diarmuid, listen, thanks very much. It's been brilliant to talk to you again, and I will speak to you on Friday night when we go around the grounds once again, and we'll have a chat, and hopefully I'll be talking about 3 points, hopefully, for Dundalk. But listen, anything can happen.
That's it, Ciaran. That's it. Thanks for having me on, and anyone who's interested will be able to see it on all our social media channels. Anyway, on Friday night we'll have the around the ground reports from all our reporters for all of those games that we mentioned there that we just previewed, and hopefully it'll be another goal fest like it was last week.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Diarmuid.
Thanks.
Okay, and that is our lot for this week. We'll be back next Wednesday. My thanks to YoYo Madhy of Harps, to Tommy Barrett of Treaty United, and Diarmuid Kearney, our own correspondent from Finalwhistle.ie. Colleen Duffy and Breffney Early were on production, so thank you to them. I've been Ciaran Callan. Take care, and if you head to a League of Ireland ground, wherever it may be around the country, make sure that you enjoy the second week of the action. Take care.